At 1:47 a.m., 3 Ukrainian FP2 drones, one-way attack munitions each, carrying enough explosive to crack a reinforced concrete span, were crossing occupied Crimea at 50 meters and 160 kilometers per hour. They had been flying for 31 minutes, and nobody on the ground had seen them yet. Ahead, the railway bridge over the North Crimean Canal near Rozdolna still carried traffic. A Russian logistics train was rolling across it at that exact moment, unaware that the first armed drone was now inside 31 kilometers and closing, and that the span beneath their wheels had less than 15 minutes left. Behind the 3 lead drones, 5 more FP2s followed on a second bearing, loaded with structural warheads. The bridge had survived the entire war without a direct hit. 8 drones, 2 corridors, 1 fixed target, and a defense network that was about to receive 13 minutes and 41 seconds to stop all of them. That was not going to be enough. The operation did not begin that night. Weeks earlier, members of the SOF resistance movement, Ukrainian operatives inside occupied territory, had started watching the crossing from rotating positions along the rail corridor. They never counted calibers or identified radar models. They watched the rhythm, when trains ran, when lights moved, and the fragments built a picture. That picture became the target package for Launch Cell Alpha, a Ukrainian Special Operations Forces strike element behind the Southern Front. The cell had loaded 8 Firepoint F P2 medium-range attack drones, fixed-wing, propeller-driven, each carrying a structural warhead between 105 and 200 kilograms. With a 6-meter wingspan and a cruise speed of 160 kilometers per hour, the FP2 was no micro-drone. Any radar that caught line of sight would see it. But at 50 meters above the steppe, line of sight was the problem. The modeled route of 120 kilometers gave each drone 45 minutes of exposure, guided by inertial navigation, GPS, and a terminal camera that locked on to structural silhouettes. 3 drones launched first. The pressure group designed to fly into the defense and force it to shoot. 25 to 35 seconds later, the 5 structural drones followed on a second bearing. 2 corridors fanning south into the dark. A Podlet K-1 low-altitude surveillance radar saw them first, a system designed to catch exactly this kind of threat, scanning 360 degrees from a 10-meter mast, sensitive enough to pick up a radar cross-section of a tenth of a square meter. An FP2 with a 6-meter wingspan was well above that threshold. On paper, the Podlet K-1 could see it beyond 100 kilometers. Against a drone at 50 meters above the steppe, Earth's curvature told a different story. The radar horizon collapsed to 36.5 kilometers. That gave the Podlet K-1 13 minutes and 41 seconds of warning. The crew acquired the tracks and initiated the handoff, a cycle that consumed 2 to 3 minutes. By the time the alert reached the Pantsir S1, the window had narrowed to under 11 minutes. 20 kilometers from the bridge, the drones crossed into the GNSS denial zone. A Pol 21E jammer was corrupting GPS across the final approach corridor. Most of the FP2s held course. Inertial backup and terminal cameras kept them oriented, but the 3rd pressure drone had been accumulating error since it entered the zone. Half a degree of bearing drift across 20 kilometers, 9 meters of lateral miss at terminal range, enough to slide the impact off a span 10 meters wide. The jammer had not crashed it, it had moved its aim. Then the pressure group arrived. The Pantsir S1, the principal kinetic defender of the crossing, sat within range with 12 ready missiles and twin 30mm cannons. It was not a weak system. The crew acquired the first pressure drone 5 seconds after it appeared on the tracking scope. They fired a pair. The missiles tracked outward, 3 seconds of flight while the drone held course, still closing on the bridge. The first round caught it. The drone came apart. The second pressure drone was already inside the engagement zone. 1.5 seconds between the last salvo and the next. The crew shifted bearing and fired another pair. The rounds tracked out across the dark. Another kill. The third, The one the Pole 21E had pulled off course was already wide of the bridge. The Pantsir S1 crew tracked it anyway, fired twice more, and watched the track drift off bearing. Every pair consumed time, attention, and 2 missiles from a finite magazine. 6 missiles in 40 seconds, half the ready load gone, and the main group had not arrived yet. 25 seconds later, the 5 structural drones appeared on a converging heading from a second corridor. Each engagement cycle, acquisition, track lock, fire, assessment, slew to next, took time, and the system could track 4 targets but not clear 5 at once. The crew fired. 2 seconds of dead air. A structural drone broke apart at medium range. They slewed and launched again, but the remaining 4 were splitting across different bearings, and each cycle cost seconds the geometry no longer had. 2 more malicious lost lock as the radar jumped between headings faster than the engagement sequence could close. 10 missiles expended out of 12. The crew switched to guns. 4 kilometers of effective range, 90 seconds at the drone's speed. 1 more drone came apart under cannon fire. 3 structural FP2s crossed the gun line. The Pantsir S1 had 2 missiles left, but the geometry was done. On the bridge, the logistics train was still moving. Its cars stretched across the attacked span, directly over the aim point of the 3 surviving drones. The operators watching the feed saw the consist clearing at 40 kilometers per hour. The FP2 was locked to the structure. A one-way drone in terminal dive cannot retask, and no one tried. The drones held their course. The train held its speed. For a few seconds, the 2 overlapped, warheads descending toward concrete that still had a train on it. Then the gap opened. 8 seconds. 10. The last flat car cleared the span and kept rolling south into darkness. The bridge was empty. The first warhead struck a connection zone on the southern support structure. 100+ kilograms of high explosive detonated against concrete and steel. The blast cracked the load path. Reinforcement buckled. The second hit an adjacent deck section, and the combined damage exceeded what the remaining supports could hold. 1 full section folded, rail, ballast, deck, and structural members dropping into the North Crimean Canal. Dust and pulverized concrete climbed into the darkness. The third FP2 struck the rail approach, severing track and scattering sleepers. Where a train had been rolling 12 seconds earlier, there was now a gap above the water, a span of twisted steel hanging from the far abutment and a length of rail pointing into empty air. 5 of 8 drones had failed. The Pantsir S1 crew had killed 4. The Pole 21E had accounted for a 5th. But 3 heavy warheads on a fixed target were 3 too many, and a bridge does not dodge. 1 span was down. The rail was cut. The Rozdolna crossing was dead. Then it got quiet. Cell Alpha was already gone, the launch site abandoned within minutes. On the bridge, smoke drifted south and rubble settled into the canal. Restoring the crossing would require heavy machinery brought by road, and until it arrived, every ammunition train, every fuel shipment, every personnel transfer routed through this corridor was stopped. And somewhere along the canal, the resistance cell was still watching. 8 drones for 1 bridge was more than enough. But this operation was not designed for 1 target. It was designed for what came after the bridge fell, and Russia was about to send it. 6 FP2s from Launch Cell Bravo were already 45 minutes into their flight, crossing Crimean airspace on a corridor that Cell Alpha had never used. The Podlet K1 picked them up faster this time, classification tighter, handoff shorter. The Pole 21E activated earlier, and the Pantsir S1, reloaded to 12 missiles and repositioned for Night 1's corridor, was tracking before the lead drone crossed the 30-kilometer mark. 2 pressure drones led the formation. The Pantsir S1 fired within seconds of acquisition. The first missile tracked outward, and below, at the bridge, The reason these 6 drones were in the air: a repair machine parked 5 to 10 meters from the damaged rail. Its boom extended into the work zone. A support vehicle 30 to 50 meters behind it. Until those machines finished, every ammunition train through this corridor stayed stopped. The resistance cell's report had been one line. It was enough. The missile found the first drone. Kill. The crew shifted 1.5 seconds, and the second round tracked out across the dark. The second pressure drone came apart before it reached the inner zone, but the engagement had already triggered the alarm below. Vehicle B's crew threw the engine into reverse and began pulling away. Vehicle A, its boom extended and hydraulic arms locked, could not extract. It stayed. 30 seconds later, 4 repair denial drones arrived on a new heading. 3 assigned to surviving bridge structure, 1 to the rail work zone. The Pantsir S-1 had 10 missiles left. Ammunition was not the problem this time. The denial group had arrived from 30 degrees east of Night 1's corridor, and the repositioned Pantsir S-1 needed 8 seconds to slew onto the new heading. The crew fired. The missile needed 3 seconds to close the range, 3 seconds in which the remaining drones covered another 130 meters toward the bridge. 1 drone disintegrated at medium range. The crew slewed to reacquire, but the second drone was already drifting. The Pole 21E had been working on it 5 kilometers longer than Night 1's victim, and the accumulated error had overwhelmed the electro-optical camera entirely. It could no longer find the bridge. The drone struck open ground 200 meters from the crossing. Its guidance not drifted, but collapsed. 2 FP2s kept coming. They had crossed into the inner zone during the 8 seconds the Pantsir S-1 spent reacquiring the new bearing. The first hit a surviving connection between the collapsed span and the adjacent section. Night 1's impacts had already stressed the concrete. New cracks opened. Steel tore free. The section sagged and deformed. No train could cross it. The second drone tipped into its terminal dive. The operators saw the rail work zone filling the electro-optical frame. Vehicle A's cabin sitting dead center in the aim point. The drone struck the same rail it had been sent to cut. The blast swept across the 5 to 10 meters of open ground to Vehicle A. The machine had not moved. Its boom was still extended, its hydraulic arms still locked. Concrete and steel fragments tore through the cabin and engine housing. Hydraulic fluid and diesel ignited. A column of black smoke climbed from the burning vehicle as the rail beneath it split for the second time in 2 nights. Vehicle B was already 60 meters away. It survived. The remaining crew pulled back. The work stopped. The repair attempt had lasted less than a full shift before a second wave turned the entire worksite into a target. 2 of 6 drones had reached their targets. The Pantsir S-1 had destroyed 3. The Pole 21E had defeated a 4th. 67% stopped. Better than Night 1. The defense had adapted. It still was not enough. 2 structural class warheads on an already broken bridge did what a 67% kill rate could not prevent. 1 span collapsed into the canal. The adjacent section cracked and compromised. Rail severed twice. A repair vehicle burning beside the track it had been sent to fix. 70 to 75% of the attacked section was now collapsed or unsafe. Some structure still stood. The entire bridge had not vanished, but the crossing that had carried military logistics through Crimea for more than 2 years was no longer a crossing. The defense did not fail because the Pantsir S-1 was weak. It killed 7 of 14 drones across 2 nights. The Pole 21E defeated 2 more. 9 of 14 stopped, a 64% intercept rate that would satisfy most evaluations on paper. But a railway bridge does not move, and it absorbs every warhead that gets through. 3 hits on Night 1 plus 2 on Night 2 were enough to break what 12 missiles per reload could not fully protect. The defense did not collapse. It was outrun by arithmetic, a finite magazine on the first night, a misread corridor on the second, losing the margin each time by exactly the number of drones that carried structural explosives past the final line. 14 FP2s at an estimated $50,000 each, roughly $700,000 in expendable airframes across both nights. For that, Ukraine collapsed a span, severed a rail line twice, destroyed the only equipment sent to restore it, and ensured that everything Russia needed to move through this corridor, ammunition, fuel, reinforcements, stayed where it was. Russia still has the Pantsir S-1. It can reload, reposition, and wait. But somewhere behind the southern front, a third cell is already being loaded.